morning and welcome to Recipe for Success. My name is Nancy Giacalone and I have a very special guest this morning, Sammi Siren. You might have seen on the intro, she was listed as, or she was billed as Sammi Sadicario. You haven't said that right. I'm so proud of myself. I got that one. For those of you that follow me regularly, you may have noticed that I have been absent for the last couple of weeks, and that is because I was attending to a very important job. My first grandchild was being brought into the world, so she was actually born a week ago today. So happy birthday, Hazel Grace. She is the most perfect thing, and in case you can't tell, I'm just more than a little bit proud you to think that I somehow had a part in that. But anyway, the kids did a fantastic job, and I'm a very happy and proud grandma. So for anybody also joining us for the first time, you might wonder, Recipe for Success, what's this doing on LinkedIn? Well, this all came about because I love to cook, and I always have. And one weekend I was tinkering around in the kitchen and I started thinking about the connection between food and business and life, and that there's always one secret ingredient or technique, sometimes it's not so secret, that is really critical to the success of whatever it is that you're trying to cook, build, or grow in your life. And so that was kind of the foundation of this podcast. And so I'm always excited to have people that have a different perspective on here. And so today it's going to be really fun because we're talking about one of our most important gifts that we have, and that's our voice and how to use it effectively. So I'm going to ask Sammi to introduce herself to you and tell you a little bit about her background.
Thank you so much. And congratulations, Nancy. Yay, Grandma. Yay. I love that. My heart just fluttered. Yes. Hi, I'm Sammi Siren. My last name is Sadicario, and my music name is Sammi Siren. It is the identity that helps propel me forward in using my voice to my most authentic capacity. I am a voice activator, which means that I work with people at any level of using their voice to optimize their inner voice, that inner child, their inner critic, get that inner critic out of the way so that they can use their message in the world with the most effectiveness as possible. I've been a singer for 20 years. I'm 29, so do the math there. I have a degree in musical theater, so I take both a technical approach as well as more of a creative, feminine, playful approach to what I do. When I work with men, it's often getting them to play a lot and to just get weird with their voice. And when I work with women, it's how to build the structure in their voice to know that it can do more than they even realize. And I just have so much fun with what I do. I feel like I play every day.
That is amazing. So tell me a little bit about your musical training background.
Yeah, so I have a degree in musical theater with a minor in religious studies. I went to Penn State. Shout out to any Nittany Lions watching this. There's a good chance that there is. And I was doing musical theater my entire life. At 6 years old, my parents put me in soccer. And I was putting shows on and braiding other girls' hair. And they said, put that kid in theater, because I would just put on shows all the time. Now, as soon as I entered theater, things became very serious. It became, this is the path. You have to dedicate your life to this. You have to study it. You have to mimic somebody else's career, pick somebody and be like them. So I spent the majority of my life emulating somebody else and wearing a mask. Now, at the same time, I was suffering from strong chronic pain issues, as well as a lot of anxiety as a teenager. On stage was the only place that disappeared. When I was on stage, anything else, anything in my body that was bothering me disappeared. I had some tics as a kid from allergies, disappeared on stage. And this was something that as I got older, I began to question even more. Even I had a friend in high school who hiccuped about 6 times an hour. And we always wondered where it came from. Doctors couldn't figure out what it was. And we did a show in Italian in high school. I went to a performing arts high school. We did very advanced shows. I had many opportunities there. We did a show in Italian and she learned how to say happy hiccup, which is what we would say every time she hiccuped. And we learned in that show that she never hiccuped on stage. And so this got me thinking as an adult, when I started to get more into psychology, what happens when we're in that flow state? What is going on? What is different? I like to think that we're deprogramming. We're taking off all the layers and we're just being. We're grounded. We're in our breath. we're in our body, and we're able to perform in a more authentic way. As I got older, I started to integrate, as I said, into psychology, into the personal development work. And I developed a method called somatic singing. So, how to feel your voice in your body, your true voice in your body, and take off all of the layers that's holding you back from authenticity. And we do this through that masculine, feminine approach.
That's so interesting. So, is there any, other than the psychological piece, is there a medical explanation or are you aware of one? I should say, I know you're not a doctor, so I'm not asking for you for, but like, is there any studies that go along with that as far as how being in that flow state can release some of the things that we hold on to?
I love that you're asking this question because I have the same question. At this point in time, I'm 29 and I am starting to apply for grad school. The work that I do is very advanced for somebody with a musical theater degree and a bunch of certifications. So I am looking to be a part of that research. Are you familiar with polyvagal theory at all?
I am not, but explain it to me.
So the vagus nerve is a nerve that.
Yes.
So the voice, when we hum, when we tone, it stimulates the vagus nerve and can help build resiliency and can help build emotional intelligence and help calm us down when we're in fight or flight situations. If you've ever seen somebody who's in a panic attack start singing to themselves, there's a reason for that. We are known for that. I have a theory that we heal generational trauma through singing. When we look at music like gospel music, and how that came about, it was a way to release fear. It was a way to release grief. We sing at funerals. I grew up in a Jewish household, so we sing for everything. There's a song for everything, right? And so I also grew up in a household with a lot of disco. My mom sings all the time. So when we go home, we're playing music and singing. That's the house that I grew up in. And my goal is to have every house be that way so that everyone can connect and sing and tune together. Because when we're humming together, we're tuning together, like humming to a baby. So polyvagal theory, part of how I started to put this together is I love cold plunging. I love ice baths.
You're an insane woman, but I applaud you.
Well, one of the ways to calm yourself down in that moment is to hum, is to sing. So it activates the vagus nerve and calms us down. So that's a bit of how the science relates into the more mystical side of what singing could be. But singing, our voice is a vibration. We can't see it, but it's still matter. It is a sound wave moving through air. So it's this is a new concept that I was playing with yesterday with a client. So we have this sound wave moving through air, and people just think of it as this invisible thing, but it's something that with certain photographs, with certain testing, that can be seen. I am looking for doctors that I can collaborate with. There is a chiropractor in town of Austin that is creating a brain scanner, and I'm curious about working with my own, because as I experienced my own chronic pain. Sure. About how it will help me and about measuring my brainwaves before and after, as well as measuring my clients, maybe somebody with anxiety or I'm very interested in children, and if we change the way adults use their voice in the household, how children will grow up. Will they feel more safe? Will they have more anxiety? If we're yelling all the time, then a child is going to be hypervigilant and be thinking anything they do is wrong. When kids are, I don't have kids yet, but I'm very interested in early childhood development. When kids are between the ages of 0 to 3, they're not picking up on our words, they're picking up on our sounds and on our tone. So being aware of how that tone affects, if we're screaming, I love you, then they're going to start associating with I love you with screaming and associating anger with screaming. So how do we become more aware of our voice and what it's doing for generational trauma, for even impacting audiences, for having a conversation, and for a stronger, more resilient generation?
So you said a couple of things that really intrigued me in that. So number one, about the power. Well, we know that the sound has energy. I mean, we know that. We know that you can break a crystal glass. We've heard sonic booms. I mean, you feel the energy from sound. So that part totally makes sense to me, and that it can impact us physically as well. And the other part of that is with regard to early childhood development. Everybody, I mean, it's common that people would sing to babies to calm them down, and so there's so much I've never thought about with regard to the power of your voice and the different things that it can accomplish other than just spitting words out of your pie hole.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. But if I'm spitting words in a monotone way, it's going to have a different effect.
Yes. And I recently watched, I forget which streaming service it was on, but I watched the thing, the Shiny Happy People, about the Duggars and about that whole religious conservative, and the way they talked. It was very calm, but it felt so disingenuous that every time the mom would talk, like literally the hairs on the back of my neck would stand up. And so the more you talk about it, the more I can start to see the connection that I've never considered before.
Really, really interesting, right? When singing and song and sound can also put us in a trance-like state, in a brainwash state. So when we think of really intense religions, or any religion really, I have a minor in religious studies, so I love all of this stuff, right?
Yeah.
It helps. It makes us think in a certain way. That's why we use song. That's why we use dance. Why we use all of these things to repeat over and over and over and over again. The music on the radio has an effect on us. I often go, "Oh, I'm listening to some really negative music right now. What is my mood like?" But being able to notice certain patterns in my life by what music was I listening to at that time. Was I listening to hard rock? Because chances are, it's going to have a different effect than if I'm listening to something with a more positive quality. Now there's all this like really great affirmation pop. So, and there's affirmation rap out there. So if you like all kinds of, like, there's something for everyone.
Sure.
So when we notice somebody who's been in a trance, right? Who's in a trance, and we hear their voice, we know, our limbic system knows something is wrong. And this is so interesting for me when you begin to look at politicians and you begin to look at how they talk. And like, are they lying or not? Let's listen to their voice.
That is so fascinating. I'm going to pop this back on here. So Katie said she agreed with the delivery and tone of your voice has an impact on children. She agrees with this 100%. I mean, I think we can all agree that. And I think, that's one of the issues that, I'm sorry, I warned you, I might go down a rabbit hole. But I think that's one of the issues that we face today as a society, is because we have disconnected our voices with so much of our communication. Texting, social media, etc. We can't tell the tone in which something is intended. No one wants to talk on the phone. No one wants to have a conversation anymore. And a conversation with few words can be much more meaningful than a paragraph long text.
Mm-hmm. That is one of the reasons why, if you message me on Facebook, if you come into my community, if you add me on Instagram, I'm going to send you a voice note and say, "Hi, I want to hear your voice. I want to get the world using their voice." That is my purpose in this lifetime. Get the world using their voice and see what happens. I want to hear more people singing in grocery stores. I want to hear kids laughing everywhere I go. If kids are laughing and women are playing, then we're in a safe place. As soon as we're quiet and silenced, we're stifling one of the most important parts of who we are. Your voice is your unique signature, and every voice is unique. That's why, look, I'm a creative. I've had multiple versions of my business, right? And I get bored because I like new things. I like stimulus. The voice is always unique. Each person is so unique. It's how do we coax this out of their voice? How do we overcome this these polyps or this health issue that's affecting their voice? And that's where my background in professional classically trained singing comes in. So it's that's what I love about how I'm doing this. It's both the esoteric and the stable.
Oh, here's something. Says my son is autistic, and that's something I have to work on with him. And Nancy, agree with you on the text. I would rather call than text an ambling message. It's more personable. And then of course, I know that this is my mom. She says I hate cell phones as you can't hear your voice and inflection. Too many misunderstandings.
Yep.
Now I will text just as much as the next person, but it usually is a short, like a couple of sentences, because I'm trying to convey some information quickly. That's not how I prefer to carry on a conversation.
Mm-hmm.
And I think we need to understand when it's appropriate to use what tools.
Well, yes. And we're in a phase where people are afraid of using their voice. Text, they can read, they can edit. Once that voice note is sent, how did I sound? Was I too needy? We're so disassociated from the tone of our voice. So many people, one thing that clicked for me about 8 months ago when my friend started to ask me for singing lessons, and then I went, oh, wait, okay, this is how it all fits together. I get it now. Is most people have no idea how their voice sounds, because when they listen to themselves, they just go, oh, that sounds awful. I don't want to listen to it. Rather than feeling, what are the vibrations in my body? This is a vibration. It's physically there. How do I feel this? And how do I get my kids to feel this too? Rather than you're too loud, getting them to recognize, supporting them and recognize what is your voice doing right now? Can you feel your voice in your body? So many people are afraid of their own voice. And I think that's my opinion. That's my theory of why people text more than voice note. It's not laziness, it's fear.
Well, I think you bring up a really good point, because as you're aware, I do my podcasts live. I have every opportunity to screw it up. And I do sometimes. And a lot of people are very nervous to come on here because it's not going to be edited. But I like that. I like the fact that whoever's here with me, that we're having an authentic conversation and it's not scripted. Although, as we already discussed, I usually have a list of questions that sometimes I pay attention to and sometimes I don't. But I think we're so afraid of just being our authentic self and letting our authentic voice out. And I say this as someone it's taken me a long time to get used to the sound of my own voice. And anyone that knows me will also say they're hoping that I do not ever attempt to sing, because that is not one of my strengths. But I use my voice in different ways. I use it in public speaking. I use it for communication to help people have a better understanding of how insurance works, et cetera. And I think that that's just as important as being able to be a wonderful singer.
Absolutely. Even more important for me, singing is more the tool to get people comfortable in their voice. It's not about how you sound. It's about being brave enough to use it in a different way.
Right.
That's one of the things. Singing it's my gift, and many people come to me for that, to express that in their own gift. But it is the tool. It is the reps. It is the exercise that you do that gets you the great body, right? It's the exercise that you do to create an alluring voice, if that's what you're missing in your life.
Sure.
If that's what you're missing.
Okay, so let's talk about, I'm going to try and pull up at least one question from my list. Okay, this is one I actually loved, because I, of course, whenever anybody's on here, I spend a fair amount of time stalking your website, your profiles, because I want to learn as much about you as I can, so that, again, we can have a meaningful conversation. And one of the things that I loved, I think it was on your website, is you talked about using our voices to connect generations. I mean, like, I love that so much. Tell me about what your thoughts are around that.
Oh, thank you for asking. So in undergrad, I wrote 2 theses for fun, just because when I have an idea, I need to do it, right? And one of them was about ritual and performance, and how I was just questioning all of these different religions and why they had all these performance aspects, why all these performances had all these rituals. I noticed how Broadway, the lights flicker, and that's how everybody knows to go inside and sit down. We know how intermission works. We're all following the same script. And my And as I got older and then entered into the personal development world through a lot of my own inner work has been with Dr. Nicole LaPera, the holistic psychologist,
Mhm.
around inner parenting. So around healing and being my own inner mom, learning how to nurture myself through things, being my own inner father, learning discipline and how to handle finances and how to, especially as a business owner, and all of those little things that may have missed because my parents were working and my parents were doing everything they could to provide the best life possible for us. But little me just wanted mom and dad. So how do I be the best mom and dad for me? Well, when I started to put this all together, I recognized that the biggest thing that brought my family together was singing, was music. And even now, I go home and, like I said earlier, we go home and we sing together and we dance together, and it is the best way for us to connect. I have a lot of fathers who come to me. And so I started putting this together. Why are these fathers coming to me? Oh, they're missing connection with their kids. They're doing everything possible to provide the best life that they can for their children, but there's something missing. They're bringing their kids on the golf course, or they're bringing
Yeah.
their kids to, rather than connecting through something as vulnerable as singing and music. Listening to music, going to concerts is what I do with my dad. Like, I texted him last week and I said, hey, Queen and Adam Lambert are coming to Austin. Do you want to come and let's have our weekend? He doesn't want to see Queen, but that's the other conversation. He's a bit of a purist, but
So Adam Lambert spoils it for him.
Yeah, but I want to go.
It would still be great. I agree.
Adam Lambert's amazing. But it's always the thing that my best memories are with my family singing together. And my dad can't sing at all. He's almost completely tone deaf, but it doesn't matter. It's about the passion and the connection and the fun and the play. Because what we're often missing between generations is play together, is play.
Right. You know, I will bring this up since my mom happens to be listening in. But when I was growing up, she loved music. And she would always buy, well, you're too young. You probably don't even know what a 45 is. But the little 45, she bought them because she liked those songs. And there was always music in our house. And when her girlfriend would come over, we would all dance around the house and, sing at the top of our lungs. And I never, again, thought about the connection. But I love that you bring this up because when my son was young, we used to put at this point, I think we'd made it to CDs. So we'd pop in the CD and, sing at the top of our lungs to some, soundtrack to a movie or something, and always had so much fun with that. The other thing I wanted to bring up around this generational piece, because this has really been bothering me lately. Social media has made it almost a hobby to divide the generations. We're going to do little spoofs on how the boomers, Gen X, millennials would respond to different situations. And I don't think that's helping us by any stretch of the imagination. It's creating further divide, and it's separating people and putting them in boxes instead of bringing them together. So how can we use our voices to bridge those divides that are being created?
What a great question. I have several answers, and part of them are coming up as questions. The voice brings us connection. It is the connection between our inner world and our outer world, our inner experience, our soul, and our message to the world. Even when you think of even in business, our brand voice, right? Our communication, our voice with God, with spirit, with source, however you call it. So voice is connection. And what's coming up is remembering. So I didn't tell you this at the beginning when you asked about my background, but I sang on a cruise for 2 years. I was a cruise director, and I sang on a riverboat cruise for 2 years. I would sing over 100 songs a week to people in their 60s to 90s. My favorite event of the week was doing a veterans meet and greet. And when I say my gift is activating voices, yes, it is in this business level, on this, this is how I, my mission in the world, but it's also just how I connect with people in my life. Everyone in my life gets a voice. Everyone in my life gets to be heard. I ask questions. I get curious about people's stories. And when I was on the boat and I would do that veterans meet and greet, first I would sing, I would be cute and do my little little song and dance for them. And then I would walk around with a microphone and ask each and every one of them their story, and men who had never told their stories before. We had World War II veterans on there. We had veterans we had one guy who did, who was at, what's it called? Basic training with Elvis.
Oh, wow.
Really cool stories, wild stories of all generations get up and use their voice. And we had people who were like this all week, grumpy pants all week, get up and feel seen and feel heard because we gave them an opportunity to. We said, your voice matters. And all it takes is one person being vulnerable. That's all it takes. One man to be vulnerable for all the other men to go, okay, it's safe to be vulnerable. It's safe to tell the story. I want to brag on this now. And that was full generational healing. Me, millennial, we have people who are in Korea, who are in Vietnam, World War II. Often we would have people in Desert Storm. All these generations being able to relate and use their voice. So finding places where it's safe to use your voice and providing a safe place for people to use their voice. That is the most important part. Do I feel safe in my body? Yes. Am I providing a safe place for other people to use their voice? Am I saying, hey, if something is difficult, please bring it to me? And when they do, how do I react? Do I then shut them down, or do I say, thank you so much for using your voice? I'm going to look at this. Can you help me understand this?
That's such a great response. I love that. Thank you for using your voice. I think that should be in the leader's manual of ways to respond to people. I love that. Okay, so let's flip it to business for a few minutes. Although I'd much rather go down this path. So as you know, I do some public speaking, which is interesting because I am doing a keynote in August. I forget. I'm losing track. Anyway, the name of my talk is Using Your Voice for Good. So I think it ties in perfectly to what we're talking about here. And my point about this particular, it's an industry specific, but when there's problems, it doesn't help to tear other people down. It helps to invite respectful discussion around issues. It helps to bring up potential solutions to problems. It helps to invite others to the table to brainstorm around it and come to, if not agreement, consensus. And again, our world, especially over the last few years, has become so divisive and mean and finger pointing that we've forgotten how to talk to each other. Any thoughts on that?
Yes. We've forgotten how to listen.
We're waiting. Yeah. Most people are waiting to talk anymore, which I just did. So sorry about that.
Okay. No, yeah. And one thing, I had an amazing mentor in the coaching space. I had a certification that just taught you how to be a world-class coach. And what he would say very often is being a great coach is being a great listener. Being a great salesperson is being a great listener. Being a great leader is being a great listener. And that's body language, that's voice intonation, that's the words they're using, that's the words they're not using. And that comes from emotional intelligence. That really comes from emotional intelligence. Am I only caught up in my own world, or am I caught up in, or am I able to see somebody else's perspective and notice something's up with them? Their breath is very tight today. If you begin to watch people's breath, you'll notice a whole other realm of being a people person, of understanding people.
Okay, so expand on that. That's very interesting to me.
Yes. So big part of my work is guiding people to use their breath more effectively in a really pragmatic, or really, is pragmatic the right word? Or really practical, that's what I'm looking for. Practical way of that is if you're speaking and you come to the end of the line, if you're giving a speech and you run out of breath by the end of it and no one can hear the end of your sentences, that just means you're not using your breath to the end. Breath is life. We can go weeks without food, days without water, and only minutes without breath. Breath is life. Breath is how we make sound. It is the beginning. Breath is the beginning. it's interesting, you know, in the beginning there was the word, but to have the word, we need breath. So when I watch people who are walking around like this all the time, if you're listening to this and not watching this, my shoulders are really raised, they're tight, and you can see it. People who take big, really deep breaths and hold it. Notice what people are doing, what their body is doing. Chances are they're being triggered somehow. Something's going on. There's something they're not saying. People who own their breath own the room. And this is why those really big speakers, this is why Tony Robbins has a singing coach. He went to Roger Love, who that was a whole other story of how Roger Love's certification dropped into my lap out of nowhere to tell me, this is your destiny, go use it. And if we have more people breathing, we have more people connecting because their nervous systems are regulated and they're able to listen.
Well, we could stay on this topic for all day because this is fascinating to me. Okay, let me check my scan. Okay, well, that's good. I think we covered more important topics today anyway. So we do get to do my 5 burning questions. Nobody gets out of the room without them. So are you ready?
I'm ready.
Okay. What's your absolute favorite food in the world and can you cook it?
Butter. Can't cook it, but I use it in everything.
First answer. Okay. No one else has answered that. So
my boyfriend calls me the butter queen. He calls me BQ.
I love it. That is great. Okay. So what's the one character trait you admire most in other people and why?
Play. When I see somebody playing, I know they're being authentic. When I see something playing, I know that they're handling their stuff. I know that they see the bigger picture of how things go. When people are very serious and very, very puckered, it's hard to connect. I love people who know how to play.
I like that. Okay, so now I'm going to flip the mirror on you. What's the character trait you're most proud of in yourself and why?
My authenticity. I've turned down jobs that didn't feel authentic. I've been very purpose-driven. One of my favorite moments, my friends and I were having a compliment circle. I instigated it. We're doing a compliment circle at a party. This is how my friends and I party. And my friend looked at me and said, "You are the most purpose-driven person I have ever met. You hold your integrity and you move forward. When something is wrong, it's bye-bye. When something feels right to you, you go for it full force." And I admire that. And he's an amazing businessman. And I took that compliment and I went, yes, I love this about myself. I am so authentic. What you see is what you get. When I hug you, it's full of love. It's genuine. And it helps me feel very fueled when other people need to put on sunglasses from my light.
I love it. That's beautiful. All right. So what is one thing anyone can do to develop healthy vocal habits?
Hydrate, hydrate, hydrate. Can I give a few things?
Yes, you can give as many as you want.
Okay. Hydrate, hydrate, hydrate. As soon as you're thirsty, it's too late. I put a little salt in your water because we do need the electricity. We need the electrolytes. We're electrical beings. Another thing you can notice is if you sit on your voice, then you're creating a lot of vocal strain.
What do you mean by that?
So how can I say this quickly? So in America, we have a lot of vocal fry, which means that our vocal cords work by air moving through 2 cords and them slapping together. So often what I work with people on is being able to just lift their voice a little bit. So it might sound to me like I'm speaking so much higher. Right now, I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm speaking so, granted, I've been speaking this way for most of the call, but I'm speaking so high, my voice is so high, but really it's more powerful and it's going to land. I have more breath behind it and it's going to last my whole life and it's going to last my 20-minute speech. It's going to last this whole day of sales calls that I have. How many times do you get on a call with somebody and I'm like, oh, your voice is really raspy. Yep, I've been talking all day. Well, how are you talking? And so that's, if you want to learn more, that's what working with me looks like. I'm not quite sure how to break it down.
Very cool. Very cool. Okay. So we know your main talents, but what's your secret talent or something people would be surprised to learn about you?
when I read this, I asked my boyfriend what I was like, what's my I'm not good at keeping secrets. I feel like I'm not, there's got to be something, right? My secret talent.
Or just something people would be surprised about you. I mean, the cruise ship thing was pretty good, but you already used it. So.
Yes, I've already used it. I've already told everybody. I'm learning I was going to say I'm learning how to produce music, but that's not quite right. I've taught myself how to be a great cook. So I'm not very good. I didn't grow up with a lot of skills, and I'm very good at teaching myself those skills. I'm very resilient. Oh, you know what? The surprise thing. Here's the thing. Most people think I'm vegan. It's a running joke. People ask me all the time, "Are you vegan?" I think you'd be surprised to know that I prefer a carnivore diet.
I would be surprised to know that. So I like that. Good answer. Good answer. Way to talk your way through that one.
Yeah. I was like, what is it? I forgot to find something. I'm like, I'm an open book.
I love that. Okay, last question. Who is the one person, living or dead, famous or otherwise, that you would most love to sit down and have a conversation with?
It's a tie between Alan Watts and John Lennon. I wrote a song called "What Would John Lennon Do?" in today's day and age. Where would he be in this climate? Would he be using his voice? Would he be using his music to stand up for what he believed in, or would he be scared, as many artists are? And I'm curious what he would do today. I'm curious what he would be thinking, what he would be paying attention to today.
And you said Alan Watts?
Alan Watts.
I don't know Alan Watts.
Oh, Alan Watts is a philosopher and rock climber. And I'm a rock climber, so another fun fact.
So you could carry on a conversation as you're scaling the mountain.
Exactly. That's
awesome. I love it. Well, thank you so much. I mean, literally, I could go for hours on this particular topic. I'm going to be reaching out to you personally, but if anybody else wants to get a hold of you or learn more about your services, what would be the best way for them to get in touch?
You can go to my website, Sammi Siren Music. I'm currently moving through an update there. So if you also want to add me on LinkedIn or on Instagram, it's Sammi the Story Siren.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much. This was so much fun. And I could tell from the interaction that our audience enjoyed it as well. If anybody wants to go back and watch it, it will be available permanently on YouTube and all of your popular podcast streaming platforms. And with that, I will see everyone next week. Thank you so much.